Namaste. You're listening to the Forced Niyama podcast. I'm Katerina, and I invite you to join me on an insightful exploration of the profound subject of yoga and the teachings of Yogacharya BKS Iyengar as I interview his most senior direct disciples. This is the second part of my conversation with Uday Bhosale, a highly regarded Iyengar Yoga teacher currently based in the UK. In this episode, we explore the meaning of compassion in yoga and how a yoga teacher should look at it. Uday will also share his guidance to junior yoga teachers on how to build balance in life when starting their teaching journey so one could thrive and serve their students. We will also discuss how to approach your yoga practice so that you are not simply led by your likes and dislikes, but you grow and evolve. Knowing your journey and knowing your story now in the beginning, I want to ask, what would be your recommendation to a junior Iyengar yoga teacher who is just starting this path of teaching classes to build a balance in their lives so they could thrive, find financial stability, and serve their students?
So, it's a loaded question. It's a big question in that sense. To start off, what I would say is, first of all, I often say, like, I congratulate all the participants or students to have come across, because just as I happened to came across this brilliant system, didn't didn't come by choice. I was not keen or peculiar that I want to learn at this particular institute. So that's why I feel far more fortunate and lucky to have come across this thing. And similarly, if someone has been introduced by whoever, family members, friends, or for whatever reason you've chosen to come to this system, I feel like I should congratulate you because of what I have experienced. It's a phenomenal system there. The way these greats, like Guruji and his family, the way they have worked, it's a fantastic thing that we can learn. And you're keen to become a teacher, which means you're keen to learn and share as well. So, brilliant thing. Saying that, the next thing is, like, initially to make it financially viable, I feel there should be some ways where you don't, if it's possible, that you don't have to rely on this as your main bread and butter source, at least in the beginning. It would be good, because if you have to manage your bread right from the beginning, I'm not saying it can't be, it can be. But when that happens, your focus has to be strong on earning that bread and butter. Now, what that can do is, often it can take away the curiosity or that freedom to just explore and divulge a little deeper, divulge into different directions and understand the subject a little better. That freedom may not be available in that case. So you may not have that luxury. So if you can sort out that bread and butter, at least for some time initially, and then get a grasp of it, understand it, let it seep in, let us have that feel for what is being taught and what the system feels like. Then obviously, as you start teaching, your work itself is going to just reflect there. It is going to help you grow. But if you start too fast or too soon, then it becomes a little tricky there, I feel, because obviously when you're so much focused on the bread and butter earning, and you're just going on those lines, maybe at times it happens that students don't get that the joy or that feel of, like, being taken care of or being addressed properly. Means if you go to a class where you find that the teacher is far more money minded than sharing, and particularly this subject can act as a repulsive thing there. So it may have an adverse effect. You may want to earn bread and butter out of this. You want livelihood out of this, but it may turn in the opposite direction, because that approach straight away is affecting that process. So initially, if it can be sorted, would be great. And I'm not saying that this is how exactly it will happen for everyone. I'm sure there are so many examples of people have started teaching and they have continued to grow as teachers. But then having that luxury, having that liberty to keep learning and not be pressed for time, just as academically you have your exam dates set, or the duration when the exams can happen is already known. And then you have those few months before where you have to start learning the subject, prepare yourself, and be ready to appear for the exam. So having that kind of approach limits or restricts how much you would allow yourself to explore in different directions. That kind of approach gets you exam oriented. When Prashantji refers to this, like it's not a topic where it's not a subject where you study, learn with an exam oriented approach. It's a life subject. You explore, you understand, you reflect, try to observe how you can draw parallels to your real life conditions, because that's what the subject is. It's far beyond what we do on the mat. And for that, the experience has to come up. For that, and that's why actually initially even Prashantji was not happy that we were like learning, we were teaching. He would say, you are still so young, you don't have experience of life. You can be asana teachers, but you can't think of yourself as yoga teachers, because where is the experience? Where is the life experience?
Wow, that is so subtle.
I didn't understand. Yeah, and I didn't understand what he's talking about back then. I was like, why would he say that? But yeah, his teachings, whatever he's been saying makes so much sense over the years. And but yeah, it makes sense. And still, you keep learning, you keep having these experiences. You can start reflecting, relating. And that's where it again remains interesting, the subject. There's so much you can reflect and understand.
Yes.
The meaning gets deeper and deeper. Meaning has different meaning, the same statement, the same sutras, for example. Understanding theoretically, understanding what the words mean, and then understanding it in different phases, it starts getting much more deeper. It's like, I often give this example. It's like the same sunset or sunrise in some scenic location, some scenic by seaside or near some beautiful mountains. It's a pleasant scene, but depends on who looks at it, the way it is described. And doesn't mean that it's like a young child, or maybe a toddler goes and sees that sight, the toddler will have some effect, would be happy to see what is happening, the color, red color, orange color, something which I may point at. A youngster or any general person, and perhaps a poet observing that same scene, the way it will be described will have a difference there, isn't it? Poet would perhaps write a poem, or someone literary accomplished person might have a description which perhaps is equally appealing as or interesting to read. So I think as you grow with your experience, you start finding different meaning or different subtleties to it. Yes. Which is interesting, I feel.
Very interesting, and thank you for sharing this insight. And Just a good reminder that it's a you should not expect quick rewards. It's a long journey, and discipline has to be applied, and patience.
Yeah, patience, exactly. And I'm saying some of us may not have that luxury to wait that long or to have that patience. And means it's fine. It's in that case, you need to do what you need to do. I'm not looking down upon them or, but if
Mhm.
possible, have this. If it is possible to create some way in which you can continue to learn the subject, it will just allow you to get a little deeply rooted in it. Otherwise, it's like, what can I learn and which can earn me money? That becomes too shallow often.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to refer to again one of the saying of yours in one of the
Saying, oh,
interview. In one of the interviews, you said that there was some conversation about the quality of Iyengar Yoga, and some people who are not so familiar with this practice, they see on the surface the strictness. In the response to this, you said that compassion is the core part of Iyengar Yoga, and it
yeah,
actually reminded me of one video with Guruji. It was his 85th birthday, where he was talking about the same thing. He was saying that, some people are saying that I'm cruel. They do not understand that I practice compassionate cruelty. Which means that those who speak of compassion, they are cruel. I am compassionate, so I have to be cruel, and not for this person who was, doing something on the stage, but for his bone, only for this, not for him. So I found it beautiful. And then how you spoke of compassion. So can you give some guidance? First of all, what is compassion for you, and how should the teacher of yoga understand compassion?
absolutely right. As you said, uh, compassion is definitely one of the strongest point of what our system is. And a big example and an obvious example is all the props that we have. Such a big example. Guruji could do whatever he used to practice, and we've seen his practice, and even like later ages, we've seen the way he practiced. That just reminded me of a funny incident. Funny as in the way it just came out. In one of the classes, Geeta ji was talking, she was explaining, and then she said, in when Guruji was young, in his 60s, now 60s is the age where people retire. He used to do this, he did so many, like 108 times this and that, and all those things. So she just happened to say it in a flow and as a straight fact, because by then he was in his 80s and she was just referring to earlier years. When he was in 60s, he used to do this. And then we just had a laugh later on saying, oh, yes, young at the age of 60, fine.
Mhm.
He said, yes, yes. The point is, coming back to the point where he was able to do all of these things. But seeing his students who were unable to do, were suffering from various problems. And that's where he said, like, he started thinking how he can give benefits of these asanas, his practice, to these students who are actually suffering. Initially, he started working, he used to physically position himself in lifting, adjusting, but then he could not reach everyone at the same time. That's where he started inventing these designs, and all these props came up thanks to compassion. So compassion definitely there. And again, I feel an example means, yes, they were strict, no doubt about it. I'm not trying to hide the fact that they were strict. They were. They were strong with their words, instructions. If you're going wrong and if you're committing the same mistake again and again, yes, they were really strong about it. But I often feel, I spoke somewhere or I was talking to someone and I gave that example. Like, imagine if a child, okay, again, a child who has just learned to walk around, walks, you are careful, you don't allow that child to wander freely on the road, isn't it? Means you would, even if the child is walking, you will be alert and you will be focused on which direction. If the child starts to go to even to the edge of the footpath, you would just run and stop that child. Now, if the child is trying to run onto the road, what are you going to do?
Yeah, use strong language.
You will obviously stop the child. If the child is still insisting or trying to dodge you and run over there, are you going to be just quiet and not let, okay, fine, you want to run there, you go and run on the road? Is that, would we appreciate a parent or even a caregiver, caretaker having this approach there? You would be mad at the child, you would scold, would warn that child, right? So at that point, you're not being, yes, you're being strict, but that strictness has a big reason behind it, big purpose behind it. That discipline has to be there. Your child has to learn not to get onto the road or to risk. That is a risky thing. The child doesn't understand at that point of time. But then it's that compassion coming out of the parents. So similarly, yes, they were strict. They were strong about what you should not be doing, or when you're just faltering, they see you faltering in your practice, they didn't hold back. That is a big point of compassion there. Yes, you may not like it. The child doesn't like. The child will start crying, throwing tantrum because it is not allowed to do what it wants to do. That doesn't mean that the child is right. So similarly, we may have our times being scolded and not being allowed to do what we want to do. And just that we are grown-ups and we can say things and we can just give it different labels. Because I've seen, like, we're having that balance, which was, I think perhaps that's what made Guruji such a magnetic personality. Means if he would have been all that angry, and then as people know, for any of, as in Guruji, Gitaji, Prashantji, if they were just being rude, why would people come all the way? Why would people want to spend all the money and get there? Time, effort, money, leaving family behind, such a big effort. Why would you take that effort just to listen to all that harshness? That was not the thing. People realize that what they are offering, what they're teaching, something precious, and there is so much passion behind that. So yeah, again, from my experience, this is what I often feel, and it came up as a question at some point, and I felt really strongly about it, and I came up with this quote or comment, I think, where it is one of the stronger pillars of our system, I think.
For a young teacher,
Mm-hmm.
what would be, because I could imagine some reluctance of shouting at students or being too strict, because there is also some sensitivity, uncertainty, maybe lack of confidence in the beginning. How to approach it in the right way?
Exactly. So saying that means, I was mentioning about Guruji or the Iyengar family, the way they taught doesn't mean that I would go shouting at people, because I don't have that position. And we teachers should have that clarity about, if I'm teaching you, the compassion would be to, because the times have changed. I'm not teaching as many people and in such masses where I means I have this time. I should take this time to explain to you properly. Now, if I'm putting a point across, I'll make sure that, okay, that, see, Katrina, this is what I'm saying. No, you're not getting it. Just listen to me. Hear me clearly. I will try and explain it. The reason you're not following what I'm saying, what is the reason behind it? Can I understand that? As a teacher, I feel I should understand that. Is it maybe you're not understanding the way I am saying? Is it my accent? Is it the language barrier? Is it the limitation of my vocabulary? So I'll ask, getting what I'm saying? Have you understood what I'm trying to say? Yes, no, or based on how you respond, I will try again. If you're getting what I'm understanding, if language is not a problem, or if I have conveyed and everyone around you is getting it, and you're still not able to get it, what is it? Is it something which is, because we don't know what is the emotional baggage each person carries, and these days all the more. So can I have that readiness? Can I have, so that I feel that is where we as teachers we have to get over our own egos. How come she is not listening to me? What is it? Why is she has come all the way? She has taken the effort to come to the class. So it's not that she is not serious about it, or she doesn't care about it. Means there can be some occasions where you may find a student of that sort, but it becomes pretty evident with behavior. But if you're coming to the class and you're acting in a particular way, what is the reason behind it? Let's find out. So instead of admonishing you or shouting at you, maybe I'll take you separately and ask you, what is the thing? Are you all right? Is it okay? Are you getting what I'm saying? I think you're getting it. Why aren't you doing it? So asking you about it and then moving ahead could be a way. Maybe you feel connected, you feel attended in a way. And that would change your approach. There's actually an interesting, I'll tell you a story about it. I'll complete this and I'll tell you the story, what happened with me there. And then the third criteria, or the situation where you notice that the student is not keen at all. And no matter how much you shout, how much you talk, he or she is not really keen. He or she is here for some other purpose. In that case, you have to decide. You have to make a choice whether you want to spend your time, effort, energy, and disturb the entire ecosystem of the environment, not the ecosystem, environment of the class. Those are there wanting to learn. Are you just going to get distracted by that one person? Make it clear that I'm trying to tell you, you're not following what I'm saying. So I make it clear. But I won't go on shouting. I won't just like start lashing out, because I don't want others to get disturbed or distracted. I'll make it clear. You're not listening to me. It's fine. So if you're doing something which is going to be harmful, I'll stop you. Wait, don't go ahead. This is not something which I'm asking you to do. You're not doing what I'm asking you to do, but I won't let you do this in my class. Please stop there. So I can stop you right there and then in that way. If I see you are completely trying to disobey what I'm saying, I'll tell you the incidents, what happened. I came here. I was looking out for some work, some classes. So one of the teachers over here got to know that there is some teacher from a different school who used to run a class for 3 years, and for some reason she is now moving. So she wanted to hand over her class to some other teacher. So obviously I had nothing else to do, and I was more than happy to get some work in that way. I was quite concerned about trying to fill up in somebody else's shoes there. When I asked that teacher to just share what her experience has been, what these students have been learning. So first of all, I got that email. That teacher introduced herself with multiple certifications. So highly qualified teacher with all those certificates and titles she had put in front of her name. Students, what they've practiced, a long list of asanas were there. I was a little bit nervous to be honest. I was, because anyways you're going as a substitute, and that's not a welcoming sign. Means for students, they have a bond with their teacher, and now that teacher has gone, so they're not happy about who the new person is coming. So that new person is not really going to have that kind of excited welcome in a way. They may the courtesy, social courtesy might just make them to receive, but inside it is a difficult situation. So I was quite concerned or nervous about it. As I started the class, I could see that yes, I was happy to see what I was having in front. That yes, there is a lot that needs to be done. There is a lot that I can contribute. So good to see that kind of situation. I went on teaching and I noticed in the corner there was one lady who was just standing while I was making everyone get into Trikonasana and instructing about it. I noticed there she is just staying just upright. I went on instructing, walked near her, and I asked, "Are you okay there?" She said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I was like a little stand. Means I didn't know what to say or what to react. She says she's okay. I was expecting some problem. That's why she's not doing it. Come up on the other side, instructions, this. And again she is standing there. I went, oh, is everything all right? Why are you not doing it? No, no, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm okay. And I didn't understand what to react to because I'm saying something everyone is saying. Why are you not doing this? I was literally like, it was just coming up now. What is happening? Finished, again come up, again Trikonasana on the right side. And she is still standing there. And I'm almost losing it now. What is happening? She's not even telling me what's wrong. I went to her and I said, why are you not doing this? Why is there any problem? Is there anything hurting? There's pain? You can tell me. I can tell you what to do. No, 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 I'm absolutely fine. Why are you not doing it then? I don't like bending sideways. I was like, what? Coming from institute where you follow everything and the instructions were so strong, and often they used to say like you can die in the pose, doesn't matter, but don't come out or don't give up. The instructions used to be so strong, and that's how we used to push ourselves. Coming from that background to listen to this, I was stuck and I was completely thrown. Like I didn't know how to react. I just pulled myself out of the situation and I went on conducting. And I was gathering myself. I didn't know how to react to this. One part of me was obviously wanting to lash out, saying, what do you mean you don't like? Then why are you here? And if you don't like to do something, is this all about your likes and dislikes and blah, blah, blah? I could have gone on that. I thought, yes, I can do that. And she would just, maybe the next instant, she would walk away. And that would be the last time I see her. And why is it? It's my first interaction with these people. Why am I letting this thing? Is it right to let this go in the direction where it just becomes more like a confrontation there? So for the rest of the class, then I just kind of ignored that student there. She did a little bit and was fine. Next class, the next week, she was there. Again, standing poses, she was standing upright. And I said, okay, but I thought she's at least, she has come to the class. So she is coming to the class. What her reluctance is, I don't know. I changed my instructions where I went on explaining something. So in Trikonasana, okay, you get this grip, notice how it feels in your hip. Can you feel it? Yes. So now if you have this grip, can you feel how it is in your back? Yes. So this is how it will help your back. This is how it helps you strengthen. I started getting the responses, giving the justification, and making them realize how this is important, how this is helpful, what significance a particular instruction has. Just trying to make them understand why this practice or why you're doing what you're doing. So just change. I didn't bother about going back to her and tell her again, do it. I didn't insist. You're happy to stand? Fine. You've at least come to the class. You've paid your fees? Fine. let's continue. The third week, when I went, and again we started with the standing poses, she joined in. And at the back of my mind, I thought, wow, that is good. Glad that you didn't lash out and you had all that thing going on in your mind, but you didn't let it come out. Because this is where she started, she joined in. Obviously, I could see her struggle, and I just helped her, asked her to just go behind, close to the wall, take this brick, and now see how it can help. With those explanations, again, she joined in, she practiced. And I taught that class for a year and a half. And during that period, she was obviously one of the most regular students. At the end of it, when we were ending the class, we had a small get together. She mentioned she was practicing for 15 years. And she said, in the last year and a half, this is where I have understood about my progress, understood about my body the most. And I thought it's such an important lesson to have that understanding. Means you don't know. I never got to ask her why you didn't like bending sideways initially. I said, doesn't matter now. Whatever inhibitions she had or whatever reservations she had in her mind due to whatever it is, she continued. She went on and she was regular about it. So if you just go on lashing out, it would have been my ego, right? On the very first day, of course, my ego was hurt as in disturbed to listen to someone saying, I don't like bending sideways. It's a different story that you have problem and you can't do it. That's when we are trained to have the compassion to give you props and adjust and all of that. But when you come and say that I don't like this, obviously it is going to just like trigger a different switch there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it should not happen. And I thought this was a big lesson right in the beginning. You don't know what the person is coming from, what background, what other previous experiences that student may have had. It's up to me. If you have come to my class, it's up to me to make sure that your experiences with me as a teacher, with me as a representative of Iyengar Yoga, you should have the right or the good exposure over there. It doesn't mean you can have your time. On the very first day, as I said, I ignored her. But yes, I should ignore her to the limit where she's not causing any harm. She was not doing anything, so fine. If she was doing something which could have been harmful to her or someone else, obviously I would not have. My ignoring her would not have continued. I have to be compassionate, or I have to be patient. Let that person warm up. I have to get clear in my mind. Am I picking up mannerisms of like Guruji or Gitaji or Prashantji? I have no right to do that. I'm not at all I'm not at all matching that caliber at all. There, no chance, or should not have that kind of arrogance. And means it would become arrogance if I start emulating their mannerisms. I think as a beginner, we have to have, or as a teacher, we have to have this thought clear in our mind, not to go on saying that, oh, this system, Guruji used to be so strict, and so I'm going to just be strong and strict with my words. It is too cosmetic, or it's trying to just too artificial.
And that's what I heard from Usha Devi. She also shared when she started teaching, her first like natural approach to it was to repeat, to say it just like Guruji would, or like to parrot. And she said, it was natural for many of us, but yeah, it's not really the right thing to do. Yeah, I find it very beautiful, these realizations that you got from these classes. And you ask yourself, who is really a teacher there, you or a person who came to your class? And
that's again something what Guruji has said, and all these three teachers would say that you stand in front as a teacher is one thing. Maybe That's how you are, like, socially, that is what the norm seems to be. But you have to learn from them. You have to see what is visible, what you're saying. Is it reflecting? If not, can you change your words? If you're saying something, others are getting it, particular person is not getting it. Why? So having that presence in the class is important. Otherwise, it's, well, means you can have a recording going on, a recorded class. You can just have it running. You're not observing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. Then you don't need to be there. If you're there in the class, check what is happening. Look at how they are presenting themselves. Look at their eyes, Guruji, Gitaji would say. Do you see they are interested, or do you see they are tired? So that gives us a good feedback of how receiving what we're saying. Am I just going on and on with explanations and boring them? Are my instructions clear, crisp? Is it strong enough? The voice, how do you change your voice over there? If you just go and at a monotonous pace and just go on saying straighten your hands and elbows straight and then stretch your hold there, that is not going to have the impact over there. So yes, you're not scolding someone, but if firm grip, you make that firmness audible. Get that intensity to pass through your voice, and you can continue in that way. So learning does happen. Learning does happen with should happen, continue to happen with students in front, because that's what is going to make you think about, if a person is not getting what I'm saying, how am I going to break it down into simpler steps? Is there anything else that I can work upon? Is there something else that needs to be addressed? The result or the desired action is not happening right now, which has been mentioned. But can the root cause be something else which needs to be worked upon first? So all of this will start sorting different thoughts in your mind as a teacher. This is where we will learn a lot. So you realize that, okay, there is something else which needs to be worked upon before I come back to this thing. So your approach changes, your sequence changes. It's a learning. You've been taught in that way. As in, you've learned from your students in that way. So learning does not stop and should not stop. You should never think that, because Guruji in his 80s, I remember one of his interviews, he was saying that I'm still a student of the subject. I was saying, what? Come on, you're 80 years old. You've done all that you've done. People come to you from so many places. How can you say? You can say, and you should say that you know everything. He did. He said, I'm still learning. I'm still learning my tadas. We have no right.
Mm-hmm.
We better continue to observe, isn't it?
Yes.
We have no right to say we know.
One should always be a student. He also spoke
True.
beautifully about it in Light on Life. I just finished reading this book, and he also, I think, refers to one artist who also said, I'm still learning, and he also said, I'm still learning, even in my 90s.
Yeah.
So I've learned that you were assistant Gitaji in medical classes for years in Pune. Can you tell more about this experience, and what was the greatest learning from these years? And how did it affect your understanding about the nature, the causes, and the cures of the diseases? What would be your guidance for junior teachers who just start giving medical classes?
Now, yes, I was fortunate to be part of the, like, assistant teachers in the therapy sessions there, and I would say it was an important phase, important experience, which shaped up whatever I've shaped up into, because that's where we got to see that, means, over the years. Now, at that point of time, it was quite confusing, baffling. And that's where we've got maximum scolding, because asanas, yes, as you're able to twist and turn and hold your body in different positions, you can present the physical appearance of it, posture of it. So often when you are made to stand on the platform to demonstrate, if you're able to get into a shape while they're explaining, talking, the challenge used to be to hold on that long. So that was fine. As in, fine means not fine. We struggled with that, but at least they wanted to say something. They wanted to emphasize on a point, and if you could hold on for that long, the purpose was served or the situation was fine. But in the therapy classes, you could not put things in the same, means initially that's what happened. Like, okay, backache, a particular twist or particular adjustment in the Supta Padangusthasana or any other pose. Fine, this is how it has to be done. You learn with one person and you try to replicate the same thing for somebody else complaining about the same back problem, you would get scolded. How can you do this? How can I do this? Because that's what I did for the other person. But it took time, and so like realized so much later on that it's not so mechanical. It's not just that is the problem, or that is a wrong interpretation of therapy. Like you start memorizing how a particular thing has to be done. You start memorizing the setup. Okay, one bolster, one blanket, one this, one that, two this. It's not like that. The person would have a different height, person would have a different body type, somebody supple, somebody stiff, somebody tall, maybe somebody having a longer torso, shorter legs, other way around. What appears in front of you, accordingly, the adjustments need to happen. To have that clarity, you need to know what you're actually intending to do. What is it that you want to happen to that person? Where are you trying to access? Where are you trying to reach out with your whatever asanas you're going to give, whatever support you're going to give? And that will start determining what support you need, what are the props you need. If you approach from there, then you don't have to mug up, memorize that, okay, one bolster, one pillow, one blanket, or XYZ prop. Because thinking of it, if you decide that, okay, one bolster, you can see the bolster shape and size varies so much at different places. So you can't have that as a fixed formula there. But if you realize what needs to happen, that support has to create width for the chest, support has to create softness for the diaphragm. What is it that you can stack up? If the bolster is too thick, too hard, it is creating that strong push, creating hardness in the diaphragm. That bolster is not of use if you're going for supine pose, for example. So you have to find out what can you substitute it. What is it that is available? If nothing else, do you at least have a pile of blankets? So that bolster could be replaced with something else. That flexibility in the mind, we have to evolve. That understanding we have to evolve. And that will come over the years with some practice. Initially, you will start trying to just remember what the setup is. We gradually get over it. We have to get over it. We have to understand what is happening. And it helps to try and practice. Even though you don't have a back pain, you don't have a particular condition, but still try and do what you're trying to recommend. Now, what you see the teachers recommending. Observe or get into that pose and observe what do you feel. So accordingly, it becomes easier to adjust the person, adjust the patient there. Because just putting you in the pose and then doing those subtle adjustments, it can have a remarkable difference in your experience. It's just making you fall back on the bolster, lie on the bolster instantly. And then if I adjust your shoulders, adjust your arms, adjust your back, waist, legs. If those adjustments are done properly, placed properly, it has a different feel to it. So these things we have to learn, and for that we have to be sharp in our observations. We have to ask at times. We are regularly keep on asking. If you are helping somebody with a twist, just try to find out whether you're just fighting with that person. Are you wrestling with that person? Because the person has perhaps reached a limit, it's hurting, and you're still going on pushing further. Doesn't make sense, because he or she is going to just resist. So it's a wrestling match between you and the person. Doesn't serve any purpose. If you ask that person, if you explain what you're doing, get that person to understand, get that person to join along with you, and give that person the confidence that I'm not here to just make it hurt, or I'm not. I mean, the intention here is not to make you suffer more. We're trying to address how is this going to help. Even if it feels a little painful, maybe the back pain person finds that there is pain in the movement. Fine, I'm just going to push you to this limit. If it feels too much, you tell me, I'll stop. Give that confidence. So that person is no longer resistant. And then your effort, your energy can be received properly. And then the person heals. If I'm scared, if I'm afraid of what you're going to do to me, I'm going to resist. And you're still pushing me through that resistance. It's going to have a different effect, or definitely not having a desired effect. So that's the compassion. That's that extra effort on behalf of, like, on our part as teachers. It's an extra effort to take that time to build the confidence in the student, to assuring that student that this is what I'm doing, to explaining, assuring that I'm going to stop. I'm not here to hurt you. If you need, if you're not, why this is important, and if you feel at any point you want me to stop, I'm going to stop. You just say that. Have that confidence. Then your efforts are received better as well. So if as a teacher, I think when you're learning to do this, just try to observe these things with the senior teachers who are working. And as you start having these qualities, I feel it will definitely reflect in the way your students receive the treatment or receive your help. And one last thing I would just quickly mention what Geeta used to often mention. She used to say that therapy is not something different than what you do in your regular classes. Therapy may demand a particular adjustment in detail, or in the focus required could be much more, but it is not a different thing altogether. In your asanas, that is what you actually learn. So what you learn in the therapy is going to actually help you with your asana practice. And what you learn in your asana practice, you have to find its relevance in the therapy as well. So these are not two separate things over there. In some ways, they're the similar, same things. Just because you don't have a particular problem, you don't get that much emphasis while you're practicing in asana. And depending on what the problem is, the emphasis would vary. Have I covered too long or too much?
No, you covered it perfectly. Yeah, just it is about compassion always. That even though a teacher may not have a certain problem that the student is suffering from, still there should be an understanding of how I could help.
Physical problems is one thing; they are obviously or straightforward, visible. Emotionally, what somebody is suffering, and we've all got this experience now. The pandemic has given us this experience, how something can be, means what kind of effect a particular situation can have on our mind. There, emotions, they can be so strongly influencing. So we've had a live experience of it, or first-hand experience of it. All the more reason to be compassionate and to try and find the answer. Means it should not take us to the other extreme where compassionate means I just allow you to do anything or allow you to do nothing in the class and just linger around. We have to see what is happening exactly, and then what needs to be done. We have to think about that solution, and that solution to arrive on the exact asana pulling pushing, maybe it needs to start off with just having a chat. What is it? Let me know what is it, what is happening, some background, some history, and something will open up. You may need that extra time, or as a teacher, you should be ready to just give that time and effort. From there, you may be able to, like, you may be able to get on track.
Yeah, it's like an extension of the approach. Always be a student, even in these circumstances.
Yeah,
Oh, most importantly, in these circumstances, be open to learn more about your students and hence help them.
correct.
So, approaching the closure of our chat, I want to ask you, as you know, this podcast is called The Fourth Niyama, and it is a direct reference to Patanjali Yoga Sutra's svādhyāya, the study of self. What is svādhyāya for you, Uday?
I think all that we spoke about can be svādhyāya. Means svādhyāya is reflecting upon your actions and its consequences, and just trying to make the necessary changes later on, isn't it? So it it's not svādhyāya means self-study, like directly translated over there like that, but doesn't mean that you pick up your book and sit in your corner and you're studying all by yourself. It's not that. Svādhyāya is being able to reflect, being able to study, observe your actions and their consequences. So it's a tapasvadhyaya Ishwar Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. So that's what Patanjali mentions is an integral part or important part of Kriya Yoga is. So your actions, you have to do actions. You will, even without doing anything, you're still doing that as an action. So these actions will have some consequences. What are these consequences? Based on that, do you need to change your future actions? All of those things. So it's having that reflection, having the ability to reflect is important. And that is svādhyāya. Otherwise, we're constantly being like we are led by our likes and dislikes. I like doing something and I'll continue to do that. I dislike doing something and I'll never do that. And that's how it is just going to get us skewed, or it's going to take us off the track. Yes, I may like doing something, but that I may like eating sweet. I like to eat sweets and I'll just go on eating sweets. I dislike not eating sweets. Can I just continue eating sweets? Is that going to have some action? Or is that action, is it going to have some consequence? If I realize that, if I understand that, my next action is going to be different. If too much sweet is going to lead to problems, obviously I'll have a control over there. I'll try to bring in some control and not indulge. I dislike doing a particular thing, or I dislike
In particular,
exerting
asana.
myself. I dislike a particular asana. What is the reason behind it? The dislike is it hurting? Is it causing some pain, discomfort? Often that is the reason. The hurt, pain, discomfort. Why is it? Study that. That is the self-study. That is the svādhyāya. Is it some weakness in certain part, stiffness in certain part, injury to certain part? How can you take steps? It could be small steps, baby steps, but at least I'm taking small steps in that direction where I'm breaking that ice. I'm getting that familiarity. I may not be able to straight away jump onto it or straight away force myself into that asana. But is that dislike, am I just carving into it step by steps, small, part by part, where the dislike doesn't remain as strong? The dislike becomes a little lesser and lesser and lesser, and then it's no longer a disliked pose. It's fine, you're okay with it. Maybe it's still not your favorite, but you have definitely overcome the dislike phase. So that is how that study, that self-study, svādhyāya, can help us get over the likes and dislikes part. So I think that's how that's how again we can lead and continue. That the theory, the philosophy need not remain separate thing in the books. It can and it should be brought into our practice. And somewhere that's what it means when we mentioned in the beginning, like the reason Prashantji was not really happy about we becoming yoga teachers at a younger age, because this understanding needs time. You will have some conditions in the life, you will have certain restrictions enforced upon you. It could be health, it could be situation. How do you overcome? How do you deal with those situations? Overcome or not, again, a different thing. How do you deal with those situations? Again, is a svādhyāya.
Yeah, it's not only knowledge that you acquire by doing this, or it's not the knowledge, but it's wisdom.
Yeah, correct.
What would be your message to yoga practitioners today?
Well, first of all, I don't see myself as a authority to give some message as such, but I feel what I can share is, I hope we've realized what kind of effect this practice has on our lives, and what is that positivity, the joy that we can be sharing, and we in return we get the same. Means being able to help someone overcome some problem, or just being able to have a nice effect, as in when you have a class, when you do a class and you feel happy and good about yourself, that joy, that positivity, it reflects, it radiates even from your students, and it brings in that joy and happiness to you as well. So I feel blessed to be, I really like, I often express gratitude to all my teachers whom I have been learning to let me experience this, let me be able to share. And as practitioners or as teachers, I feel we should, at least for me, this is what drives me. This is what I feel lucky and fortunate about. The fact that it pays me is a bonus. So you can just continue to have that joy and spread it. All the more important in today's world.
Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful message. I'm very grateful for having this interview with you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take care and continue your practice. See you in the next episode.